Let's see if we are actually live. Let's check the chat, and let's check the viewers. Are we live and visible to everyone? So we can get the session started after an eventful week. I need a sign of life before I continue. Please give me a sign of life that everyone is here. Let's see. Is the audio good? Everything alive? There, 6-7. That is the keyword. 6-7. Hello, Takazaga. That sounds like Tokyo to me. High five. So we are live and we are going to start this Sunday session. The Pioneer Academy is back. We are working hard on making it all happen. And of course, as always, we are going to go first into the week to see what the age of AGI did to us this time, how the week went. We start with our Tesla review before we go into very important earnings. What the earnings of the Mag 7, 4 reported, not Tesla, but 4 others reported. And these earnings are quite something, and they tell us something about where the market is, where the market will be, where society goes, and where the society will be. So this will be very hot. So we have 6-7, high 5, and 10-4. Wow, is this some code I don't understand? This is pretty advanced. So 6-7, high 5, 10-4. What is missing? We're missing 3-9, 2-8, I guess. So here we see what happened to Tesla this week. And we see hi from Italy, hi from Ljubljana. Wow, we have pioneers from all over the place, all over Europe. Takazaga sounds like he is from Japan. So we have many, many people here. This is how it looks like. This is the situation for Tesla. And I think we absolutely nailed it with Pioneer Alpha. I predicted, as you all know, very publicly, I was the only one saying when everyone was down after earnings of Tesla the week before, and we dropped to 360. And I told everyone, this is fake news. We had tremendous Tesla earnings. We're going to go back to 400 in no time. And of course, we're not there yet, but we are up by a lot. We are up 5%. And these, for those of you who follow the AI trade, for those of you who follow Pioneer Capital, Pioneer Alpha, and our endeavor here at Pioneer Lands to predict the age of AGI strategically, to predict key players like Tesla, NVIDIA, of course the other Mag 7s, then break it down into 12 months tactical predictions, and then pinpoint the predictions over the next 4 weeks. The thing they said no one can do, we actually do as a method and continuously refine that. And the way to make money with that is not through YouTube clicks and advertising, even though I appreciate, of course, the super chats from time to time, but very importantly, the ad revenue that we are getting through YouTube, completely unexpected. It's actually not that trivial. We can pay like our editor and some people, but that's not the way to make a lot of money. The way to make a lot of money is, of course, Pioneer Alpha, the portfolio of Pioneer Lands, Pioneer Reserve. And when we make these predictions and are right, it pays off. And that's exactly what happened this week. It paid off pretty bigly. Let's take a look here. 1 week, we are up 9.4%, which is a lot, because in this week, Tesla was up 3.86%. Pioneer Alpha counts a little bit different than Google Finance, by the way. If you look at this 5 days, Google says 5.17. Pioneer Alpha says 3.86 for Tesla. The reason is, I think Google makes the mistake, not us. The way you count it, is it, the trading day end price of the day before these 5 days, or is it in the beginning of these 5 days? So sometimes it's off, sometimes Google is more, sometimes Google is less, but it's not really more or less. It's just counting the previous closing quote or the beginning quote of the first trading day that is considered here. Of course, doesn't matter long run, same thing. So we are beating Tesla an unbelievable 5.5% this week because of the prediction. I went very heavily short put at the money, a little bit in the money, not too much. I want to have maximum premium. That paid off. I needed then to stack these short puts to really squeeze out the alpha all the way to 390. So then you stack it, because if I have a 380 short put, that is running out of steam if Tesla goes up a lot. So that is a big, big win. Cape Town, South Africa, 100, wait, I have to read this. 100 Kotze. Kotze is a bad word in German, but 100. Hi, 100. We have you to believe from Virginia. Hi, Virginia. Hi to Virginia. We have John Samuel from Bucharest, Romania, and Midwest, wherever that exactly is. Tesla Granny, where are you in the Midwest? Tell us more. And Washington, D.C., the capital is on board. Very good. So here's Pioneer Alpha, by the way. So we nailed this week, beautiful, and that gives us a month-to-date performance, unbelievable, of 22.39%. Let that sink in. So I'm very proud of that trading performance, completely destroying Tesla. And by the way, this is mostly because of Tesla option strategies I layered around the Tesla core position. It's a little bit also because of MicroStrategy and NVIDIA, which are my number 2 and 3 positions. But compared to the Tesla option strategy, it's just a small contributor. And of course, year to date, we are up 12.11%. Now Tesla down 13.1%, which gives us an alpha of 25%. Now this, of course, matters. And I will have a video out tomorrow where I cover this a little bit more in depth, what the trading strategy was. This is not the main topic for today. We're going to go into bigger pictures today of AI, developments in AI, the earnings of the other Mag 4, Google, Microsoft, Meta, of course, and Amazon. And this is just to recap. It pays off to be right, tactically, layer the options responsibly around it, because 25% in until now, this year to date over Tesla is huge, because we are looking at Tesla. Tesla is our benchmark, and these 25% will be used to buy more Tesla. I will also comment this week a little bit a strategic and tactical look at where we go from here, because there is kind of a phase shift. I predicted Tesla is going to slide down slowly and deflate in Q1. I was right about this. I then predicted Q2 is going to be hot. How hot we have to see, that is, of course, for the other video. I think we are going back to 490 very quickly, because we don't need any catalyst for 490. We just need to go with the market and back to all-time highs. The market's already above all-time highs, so that is just filling up the expectations back to where they were in December. So that shouldn't be very hard. That's why I'm very bullish, because we don't need any big catalysts. And then it's getting a little thin air, because up there 480, 490, 460, whatever it is, it will be hard to break through this before Robotaxi does something of substance. So people will get very euphoric once we are back at 490, but that's exactly the trap. Then we have to buckle in and dig in and might go down again, but we are not there yet. Right now, it's still a very bullish situation. Of course, all pending the macro situation and the markets. We have Pennsylvania on board, Peter Fox, B6R. We have Naples, beautiful Florida. We have the UK, and Andrew End. We have Silicon Valley, CNext. Very nice. Silicon Valley. Greetings to wherever in Silicon Valley. San Jose. I lived in Menlo Park for 18 months or something. Georgia, US. Palm Beach. The fancy people are here too. 17 EV. Beautiful. For those of us new, could you please explain when you short put Tesla? Well, basically you have different phases of the stock. You can go into, and the way we do it here at Pioneer Alpha with my portfolio is it's all about predicting the future strategically, long term, right? 5 years, 5 to 10 years. Then using that larger trajectory to bring it down and so first you understand 5 to 10 years. That's the deeper understanding of first principles and all the trajectories. Then you predict. With predict, I mean the next 12 months. Robotaxi, Optimus, inflection points, forcing functions. And then you pinpoint. And now we're getting to the money. But you can only pinpoint if you understand and then predict. 5 year, you make sure you get the 5 years with financial models, but also first principles. You boil it down to the next 12 months. Okay, what are the forcing functions, inflection points, very likely to happen at what odds? Then you have a good scaffolding. And then you try to pinpoint the next 4 weeks, which is where it gets tricky and where the money is. And in these pinpointing exercises, we're trying to understand, is Tesla at an inflection point upwards or repricing potential, steep upwards trajectory? Is Tesla in a deflating moment, like the Q1 situation where you know, okay, the trend is down, but probably not dramatically down. So we deflate over time. Or are we just bottoming out and technically should rebound, which is the situation now. Once we have a clear thesis with some probabilities added to it, we can then layer in the option strategies. If you're in a very high potential run-up or in the middle of a run-up, that's one of only 2 scenarios where long call options are a good idea. Because long call options have the problem that they're losing a lot of money if nothing happens. So they have a high premium risk. You only want them if they are strong upside potentials in a reasonable amount of time. So I don't touch them too often, but when I touch them, I need them for massive leverage upwards. Now is not the time for that, by the way, because we don't know when these things exactly happen. In times where I'm bullish, but not endlessly strong bullish to a strong upside, but I'm also quite convinced that a steep fall is extremely unlikely, then I'm going short puts. You know, you're selling put options. And when you sell put options, you want to do so not deep in the money because that's effectively going long stock with full margin risk, but you want to have maximum premium, of course, that you're getting for free. And so that's at the money or slightly out of the money weekly. For example, if you're selling a put, 390 strike price weekly, so expiring in a week, you're right now getting maybe $8 for it. So you're getting $8 for free. If Tesla does nothing, it doesn't go up, you get $8, $800 for one contract, 8,000 for 10 contracts. So, you know, you can make $8,000 in a week, 10 contracts. If Tesla does nothing, if you're actually wrong, you're bullish, you're selling that thing, but Tesla actually goes against you and goes down, but only goes down $4, you're still getting $4,000 on 10 contracts, despite being wrong. And that is exactly why these short puts are beautiful. Over time, they put the odds on your side, but you have to avoid being really wrong, because if you're really wrong once, you can lose a lot of money, far more than the money you get. You can have infinite losses. So that's a little risky, of course. Slovakia, Robert Buga. Hello to Slovakia. We have Hutchinson Island and Florida. We have UAE. Where are you? Dubai or in Ras Al Khaimah? These are the 2 options. Well, or Abu Dhabi. Ohio, a beautiful state with lots of Germans. Mr. Dubety. Salem, Oregon. Very nice. I am very familiar and lived also in Portland and Vancouver, Washington, which most people don't know is actually north of Portland. I mean, you for sure know if you live in Salem. So that is the situation. Very good. I'm very happy so far with this year. We are absolutely crushing it. And the challenge will be now that we have this beautiful buffer here in the Pioneer Reserve for our bonds. Now the challenge will be, by the way, when Tesla really hits an inflection point and goes up a lot. I don't think that's happening now. Tesla could go to 490 in a relatively short period of time, but it can't go to 600 unless Robotaxi really does something. So in these, if the repricing happens, I have to switch if I really want to squeeze massive alpha out of that and not just go up with Tesla. If Tesla goes up 100% from here and I'm doing my short put strategy, it's very hard to get massive alpha over Tesla. So if Tesla goes up 100% and you're playing my short put game, you know, it is very hard to make, let's say, 200%. But if you play a long call game, you can make 700%, of course. But you have to be cautious because if Tesla stops going up, you start losing money. So it's all about anticipating the move and adopting the option strategy for a totally different strategy if you see a massive up move that I don't see right now. Now, as I said, can this thing go to 490 in no time? Absolutely. But it cannot go beyond that, in my opinion. Right now. Can change any day if suddenly Cybercap scales, but that is right now not the case. That's how I'm thinking about this. To my 8839, hi from Berlin, die Hauptstadt. Very good. Ahwatukee, Phoenix, Arizona. Ahwatukee, is that a different place than Phoenix? I only know Phoenix. I don't know Ahwatukee. Are these naked puts? Yes, pretty much. I mean, they're of course cash cover to some extent. Not really. Like, yeah, they're pretty much naked puts. I mean, look, you know, what's very important when we talk about option strategies, and I don't want to go too deep into that. Some people are interested in it, but I don't want to go too deep into it. I am not a friend, I have to say, I'm not a friend of all these terms. I understand all the terms, but I don't like them too much because they're deceptive. Like, what's a straddle? You know, what is like a naked versus, you know, all these things. Same with the Greeks, deltas and thetas and all kinds of stuff. Because they are confusing people and they're like, what is the difference between a short put and a straddle, for example? Is there really a difference? In most instances, it's not. Like, for example, if you go weekly short puts 10 contracts and you buy long puts out of the money, deep out of the money, you're setting 390 and you're buying 350. That's naked, in my opinion. How is this not naked? Because these long puts are only there to give you more margin, because they will never kick into effect, so they're not really hedging anything. They're just allowing you to go more short. So technically, then it's not naked anymore, but I don't buy it. So basically, the way I see it is you need to be right. You need to put on your trade, you need to understand your risk and your probabilities of the stock's moves, and you need to be able to change your mind immediately. At any point, you have to switch strategy and say, ooh, I'm out of here. Whatever. What's happening here? Is still everyone here? It changed something in my devices. That's weird. So that's the situation. We only care about alpha. Exactly. We care about alpha and generating and predicting the stock accurately. And the options are just, I mean, they're not unimportant. They squeeze out, you know, a good chunk of that alpha. But the most important thing is to be right about the future and about the tactical short-term future. Okay, I wanted to talk not just about Tesla today because we know the predictions. We know the situation. Yeah, assignments, well, you don't really need cash for the assignments. It just goes negative, your account. And if I get assigned without me wanting it, I just sell the stocks immediately and put on a new options position. So these assignments, you know, once you do this, you learn it doesn't really matter if you're down a few 100,000 or something negative cash, like who cares? You just cover it. You just get rid of it. You can do it immediately because it's all defined by your margin anyway. So I never get assigned. I mean, I get assigned, but I never keep it. I don't want to get assigned. Options are options. Core position is core position. If the options start messing up my core position, I just get rid of whatever they put in. Now, what is important to understand here, bigger picture, market, and where we go from here? I want to share some things. As you all know, this week we had earnings. We had earnings of some very important companies. Look at this. Earnings growth in April was expected to be 13%. We are coming in at 28% by Amit. Thanks, Amit. Big tech crushed beyond imagination. If you have a bear case, it can't be earnings. Look at this. This is April. And we saw massive, massive, massive effects, right? You see the big ones, Microsoft, you see Nvidia, you see Amazon, of course, the crazy Google situation. Meta got crushed after earnings. Doesn't matter. I think Meta is one of the best deals now. It's so cheap. So what we are seeing is nothing short of an earnings revolution. Of course, every Pioneer Lands member knows that because we live in the age of AGI. This is clear. That is why I'm strategically extremely bullish. The bigger picture is that AI is changing everything. The hyperscalers, the Mag 7, will benefit from it immediately and massively. Tesla a little delayed, but then even more than the others. But of course, Google, of course, Amazon, one of the strongest places, Amazon. The little surprise winner will be Meta midterm. That is what I'm what I'm convinced of. I think Nvidia is just a simple no-brainer. This is just going to win. All the other Nvidia types here, Broadcom, Micron Technologies, you see all these. Of course, they're all going to win. They can't not win. Intel went up a lot, but AMD, Micron, this is a sector play that can't go wrong right now. And if you ask me, do I like Nvidia more than AMD? Of course. Do I like Micron Technologies? Of course. I mean, but they have to win because there is no way around them winning. Same with Amazon and Google. They will just win. Microsoft, not perfectly managed. I don't like what Microsoft is really doing. I think they're wasting tremendous potential, but will they win? Of course they will win. How can they not win? And then Meta, a little more unusual, a little bit more interesting strategy. You know that I'm very bullish, very long-term on Meta because they're undervalued, because they still have a LeCun drag from that French dude who doesn't understand AI, but now he's out, and now Wang, what's his name? Jason Wang, is on it, and I think they are having the right strategy, and they will surprise on the upside. So this will be more surprise winner in my opinion. I just don't know when. That's why it's not in my portfolio. I can't time this. Pretty confident Meta will look good in 12 months, but I don't know exactly when. And Tesla, of course, we understand everything better than anyone else. So Tesla is my main focus. That is the situation here on the earnings front. And it was a very, very impressive situation. And the Kobeissi letter, what they say, current year-over-year blended earnings growth rate for the S&P, 27%, more than double the 13% expected. So saying the same as Amit. 63% of S&P companies reporting Q1 earnings thus far. We are on track for the highest earnings growth rate since Q4 2021. And that was, of course, after the pandemic. So growth mostly because Q4 2020 was a complete disaster. So the growth rate of Q4 2021 is total fake, right? Because, of course, you have a massive earnings growth rate year over year if the previous quarter was Q4 2020 when the world stopped. So this can't even be compared. We see a complete explosion of earnings because the AI story is unfolding faster and harder than anyone expected. There was a video, I will have a video next week on exactly what's happening in AI. There's a great chart that I think the Moonshot podcast had with Peter Diamandis and the crew, where they show all the model launches over the last 8 weeks from Opus 5.7 to ChatGPT and OpenAI, 5.5 to Kimchi, to DeepSeek version 4. So all these models are dramatically improving and they're being launched at dramatic speed. Of course, Anthropic on top of everyone right now with Claude Design coming out and all these things coming out. And these are mind-boggling. I'm using Claude Design a lot right now. I'm using Claude 5.7 or Opus 5.7. So these things are amazing. And we know that Elon is working on all his stuff as SpaceX and XAI. So, and there is some crazy progress on the image and video generation side, both on OpenAI and XAI. So this is happening faster than people predicted. Well, I predicted over a year ago, like roughly 15 months ago, that AGI has started, that the singularity has started in January 2025, that it will be completed in 2027. So right now we are right in the middle of it and you can feel it. If you have your finger at the pulse, you can feel that we are in the middle of the singularity. Now, I'm not trivializing this. This is also terrible. It's extremely dangerous, but I like innovation. So of course I'm thrilled too. Of course we have to build pioneer lands and make sure this doesn't go off the rails because no one else will make sure, because no one cares. Either people don't understand it or they do understand it and they're just pushing as fast as they can, which is crazy. So for us, it's all about understanding the future, making sure we can capitalize on it so we have resources and maximize returns. As you know, I believe 30% is the new 10%. Instead of making 10% on equities a year, you should make at least 30% sustainably long term. That's why one of our bonds, you know that we have our beautiful bonds here, Growth 45. That bond is basically designed for more stable returns, maxed out at 45% a year, aiming at 30% a year, guaranteed more stable than Tesla 50. This is our booster bond, where you get the full upside of Tesla plus 50% of the alpha generated over Tesla. You can see these on Pioneer Alpha. So the Growth 45 and the Income 12% paid out per year, up to 100% additional gain at maturity. That is why we are designing these bonds. They are not just a way to make money for the Pioneer Reserve, even though that is a side effect. The Pioneer Reserve is an institution where we build the infrastructure for the pioneers, for pioneer lands, financial and economic infrastructure, now Luxembourg-based, available to qualified investors in the US, Canada, UK, Switzerland, EU. Australia, we are trying to handle. But that is kind of the reflection why I started these things, because I believe this new age of AGI will lift up this entire thing, the entire return curve, the efficient frontier, as you say in finance. Efficient frontier, how much money can you make per year at a certain risk? And the risk-adjusted return represents an efficient frontier, right? And that frontier is now being shifted upwards, which is crazy when you really think about it. So that is all happening, and we see now these signs that this is not theory anymore, that the theory gets translated not through Pioneer Alpha alone, but also through all these earnings. You see that something is structurally shifting in the economy, in finance, with these stocks. And that is very fascinating to see. So we have a very good question here, by the way. Are you excited by the 10 billion FSD miles driven? We are very close. As you probably remember, I think Elon just made this up, so I'm not too excited about the 10 billion miles, but I think it's indicative of what's going on. Elon said we need 10 billion miles, and here's a tracker. How many billions of miles have been driven through FSD supervised by Tesla owners? So how many miles have been recorded by Tesla videos, real world miles driven? And we are hitting 10 billion miles in May. That is happening very soon. I don't know when, in a few days or today, like very soon, as you can see. And that will be a milestone, a very important milestone. So What do we have here? Arnold Schneider. Do you think we should try to time the unveiling of the Roadster? I don't think the Roadster will do much. I don't think that has any too much potential. You know that I have my theory about flying cars, but it's probably not the time where Tesla goes into flying cars, even though this thing might fly. But I think it's not going to be an enormous deal, to be honest. You should get into the important details. We're looking for a bit quicker, Joe. A lot of words being said with no substance. I don't agree with that, obviously. You should get into, it's a bubble, 10 billion miles. Do not know why people said Elon is late with this one. I agree. I think I think we are actually on track more than people give Tesla credit for. I think Cybercab is very powerful. It's launched in time, the manufacturing, and I'm pretty happy with where we are at. Natty Vegan asks, how do you manage the Tesla options positions when it goes against you and challenges your strike? Well, here's how I think about it. Most people think too tactically about their position. They have all kinds of rules about their position. I don't care about my position. I care about my prediction. So I'm looking at where the stock goes versus my prediction. And if there's any major deviation, I know where my pain points are. Normally my pain points are round about, if you have a certain premium and your short puts, you're selling 390, stock is at 390, you get $8 premium. For me, the red zone is reached if you hit these $8. So if it goes down to 382 and you basically burn through all the premium, then I'm getting a little nervous, because then further downside, if it's already moving against you, pulls you completely into a delta of 1. So where you're losing basically the same as holding stocks. That's for me the kind of a red line, but it depends on the situation. In case of SpaceX merger, could this trigger a taxable event for investors outside the US for their Tesla stock? Oh, that's a good question. I'm not totally sure on that. I would have to look into that. That should be something AI can answer very quickly. If a merger is a realized gain, probably not. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not totally sure about it. So let's see what Pioneerland says. Let's go into the questions and forum mentions we have today on our main topics. Let's see what we have here. We have one in the queue that we didn't respond yet. Let's go here. David is asking, this is on the Pioneer Academy. You can go to pioneerlands.org. By the way, here you can go here, pioneerlands.org. We have the Draupnir system. You can test your own agents out here, by the way. This is your agent system. Here you have the Pioneer Academy. You just have to sign up, but that's free. And then you have here all these questions. So we have this question by David. My core position is 600 Tesla shares. That is very good. Congratulations. I also have leaps that expire in December 2027. Very good. I like these leaps. 100 for 20 and 200 700. Not bad. I think that's not bad. I don't have leaps right now, but I mean, it's better to have them than not to have them. I think it's better if you want to be super trading, you know, then a short put trade is better. But if you don't want to pay that much attention, it's not a bad idea. The 420 are about 100 now, just below what I paid. The 738, I'm down 50% on them. That doesn't matter too much. It's leaps. I still think Tesla should be well over 1,000 by the time they expire. These positions make up 90% of my net worth. My biggest concern is what happens if the stock ticker Tesla doesn't exist post-merger. Steve McRyan post claimed in a video that out of the money leaps would become worthless. Do you agree? Feel free to also comment my general on my personal position. Would you take the loss and sell the 700? Well, we actually covered that. Of course, here, I didn't cover it in a dedicated video, but I covered it briefly in the Pioneer Academy here last Sunday, I think. According to the research I did so far, but no guarantee, I'm 95% sure now that they don't expire, because a call option is the right to purchase Tesla at a certain strike price. If the ticker gets merged into another ticker, this right transfers to whatever equivalency you have. That is how it reads in the contracts that I saw. There's general options contracts, I think, listed by NASDAQ or someone. I have to look into that again. So maybe I need a dedicated video, but I am 95% sure, which means 5% risk from my perspective, that they don't expire and they either transfer over to whatever the merged entity is or the equivalent share of the merged entity. So obviously, if you're down 50%, how do you say how many? 100, 420, and 200, 700. 100 contracts? Wow, that's a lot. 200, 700. That's a lot. Yeah, that's a tricky situation. Not a dramatic situation, because December 2027 is still totally in the green from a timeline. As long as you're more than 18 months out, I wouldn't be too nervous about it. You hit the 18 months in like July. The 420 should be fine. The 730 at 38. So, I mean, that is all a question. How do we expect the stock to move in 2026? Because you don't want to necessarily wait until 2027. The odds, I would say, are on your side not selling. Of course, this is not advice. It's just my opinion. If I would hold them, the odds would be on your side that you get a much better price this year at some point, I would say. A much better price. So I would not pull the trigger yet. That's why you have so much time, and that was a good move to have that time. Because if you go back to all-time highs, which I think will happen, and it happens in a reasonably short period of time, then you are much better off not selling now. And I think Steve McRyan is wrong about the leaps becoming worthless. So I still have to do much more research, but you guys can do that too and post it in the academy, by the way. Why don't you do that? We are Pioneerlands. You have to do something. Why don't you guys go to Claude or ChatGPT and do a little bit more in-depth research? Ask them, here's the situation, merger, out of the money leaps. Tell me exactly what happens in that case and quote the exact contracts for these options, because they're general contracts. They're on a website, okay? It's not like random contracts. So you guys can do deep research. Just why don't you do that? Post it here in the forum. You go to forum, for example. You can go to forum or to questions, right? And you can post that and you will do everyone a huge favor. Here's AGI. Why does it not show my sidebar? Here, you can go to AI income, I would say, and post your questions there, AI income systems, about what we just discussed. And that would be amazing. So, in case of a SpaceX merger, could this trigger a taxable event for investors outside? Yeah, we had this. I think Elon's original 10 billion comment was just order of magnitudes, exactly. Joe, when do you expect mass-scale white-collar layoff due to AI? Enough to start the cause global panic at the realization of what's coming? Excellent question. So let's discuss this for a second. This is an excellent question. First of all, I'm an economist, in case you didn't notice. And as an economist, I have to warn you about all these metrics. When you hear unemployment rate, you always have to do your homework. What does that mean? Because what we saw, especially in the United States over the last 30 years, the government started playing all these metrics. So gaming all these metrics, which is very stupid of the government. Because I want to look good, there's constant adjustments of what that means. And the problem in the United States about the unemployment rate, I'm not even sure about Germany and other countries, but in the United States, unemployment is defined as the dumbest possible thing. It's defined where if every American loses their job, but even touches anyone else's contract. Like if you are a nuclear physicist, you make 250,000 bucks a year and you get fired and you are unemployed, you don't have a job, and you say, I have to feed my family. I'm gonna lawn the mow the lawn of my neighbor for 10 bucks. And you did that in the last week. And these unemployment people call you, these statistics people, you are employed. Okay, you understand. So if all Americans lose their job, but all of them do something for their neighbor and get paid 10 bucks, no one is unemployed in the statistic. And that is the reason why the statistic will never go up. So it's extremely fake news. There are other employment statistics, you know, there are different stages of the employment count, the U3, U6, and so on, that are a little bit more reliable. There's also wage and income, so you have to look at those. But generally, I think there's a lot of hiding going on. If you listen to people, if you listen to college grads, it's a disaster already. Now, can it get worse? Yes, it will get massively worse. So I do think the United States is much better positioned than nearly every other country in terms of people's expectations, right? If you are an American and you're young, you know you're screwed. And you knew that for a very long time. So everyone is already preparing in their mind. Everyone knows, okay, I'm screwed. I need to do something. I need to be entrepreneurial and invent something, which doesn't make it much better, but at least there's some flexibility. I think Germany, for example, will get hit much harder on the unemployment rate. And do think, I do think um, this becomes very important next year. I think we are in full swing of the preparation of a complete storm, of an AGI storm. And I think this storm will hit in a first wave next year, and it will be full-blown employment panic in 2028. It will hit all these elections. That is what I think. And when you look at Bernie Sanders, for example, and think about Bernie, what you want, I understand many people don't like Bernie. I think obviously he's nuts, but Bernie is smart. Bernie is a little bit more earnest than most other politicians, and he's savvy. He's much smarter than the other Democrats. So he has already hijacked the whole AI economy situation. You should follow Bernie and look what he says. He's absolutely taking aim at this, which is a smart strategy. And dangerous, because what if these people win? But I do think we are in the middle of a massive inflection economically. It will be good for profits. There's also but it will be very bad for employment. It will be very bad for the median American. It will be much worse for the median German. I always look at US and Germany as the two important economies, Germany representing the heart of Europe. UK is a little bit like the island in between. UK is, of course, totally screwed, as we all know. A little more flexible than the German economy, but also much less capable. So screwed, more adaptive, but more screwed. Germany, less adaptive, more capable, but they will get hit extremely hard. I think the Scandinavians will be fine as always because they're smart and can organize. And I think America is also awaiting a complete storm. But the American economy is the most adaptive economy because the people are the most pioneering, adaptive people, but it will be extremely painful and there might be major political consequences. And that might go beyond Democrats and Republicans. Who knows what the Republicans come up with. I think the Democrats, I mean, for them, it's easy prey. The Democrats just have to go full-blown socialist. I think that's actually the best strategy. Not for America, but for winning the elections, which is extremely dangerous. But if they're smart, they're pivot full socialist. And Bernie's already doing that. That will get them the most votes, and it could coincide perfectly with that storm. And the Republicans better come up with something that is independent of Iran and Trump and the whole debacle. That's just political strategy, right? What do you offer the voters on a substance level? So I do think it's going to get insane. I think people have no clue how bad it's going to get very soon. So that's my prediction. Let's see. What else do we have? I wanted to where was this unemployment thing? Let's just go into the AI unemployment. The latest I saw this post, it was interesting. May 1st. Universal high income via checks issued by the government is the best way to deal with unemployment caused by AI, says Elon Musk, but Elon also has literally no idea and doesn't care about how the government operates. So this is not going to happen, because how does the government even do that? This is an old post by me. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang said industry leaders need to be more mindful of how they talk about the potential impact of AI. Yes, so Jensen has become much more political, by the way. Jensen has become much more political, and he's not as honest as he used to be. Now he's more manipulative, which he was just more honest than anyone else before, so now he's just normal. And he is now, when he talks about China, he's really saying some things that are not totally true to basically push people to removing these export controls. And now he's criticizing, of course, Anthropic and Dario Amodei, and says there shouldn't create so much panic because Jensen is just for going all in and selling his chips, which is his job. I get it. I'm not mad at Jensen, but we have to take it with a grain of salt. You know, so basically Jensen Huang criticized leaders who stoke fear around AI impacts on the world. Huang called the doomerism ridiculous and urged industry leaders to rely on facts. And here's the thing. It's a little bit like politics. When people look at me and what I'm saying, they'll say, oh, Joe, you're like a doomer or something. Dudes, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a doomer. I'm not a fanboy. I'm not even just a blind Elon or Tesla fanboy. I just want to be right. And I'm willing to do what it takes with my brain to be right. I want to predict what is actually going to happen so I can take the wisest course of action that makes the most money tactically and builds the greatest civilization strategically. That is my only goal. So if I have a position on something, it's not ideology driven. If I'm more doomer, it's not because I'm a doomer. I believe we are all going to die and AI is going to kill us. I'm just saying, oh, there is clearly a problem and we are going to get hit hard in the face. Do I think AI can kill us all? Of course. I mean, duh. Everyone believed that. Just now they're changing their minds because they're making so much money with it. That's the second, problem of AI, that it might kill us. The first problem that's hitting us now is it's going to be completely disruptive to the economy and then completely disruptive to society. Now, I kind of like it because we can build pioneer lands based on this opportunity much faster and stronger than we ever could. But let's not kid ourselves. This is going to be extremely high risk, not because of what we are doing. We only de-risk for us, that we are having Pioneer Alpha, that we are making more money, predicting the stocks better, and building our great things in Pioneer Lands. That only has upside. But the greater thing that gives us all this super boost has tremendous downside, only that I can't change anything, so I just take the upside. But let's not kid ourselves, this can get extremely dangerous. So what do we have? MicroStrategy earnings May 5th, which is Tuesday. Well, MicroStrategy, is not that complicated to understand. It's Bitcoin. Sure, there are some tweaks, but everyone knows it's Bitcoin. So MicroStrategy, sure, there might fluctuate a little bit on earnings, and maybe it's going to be bad, whatever. Bitcoin is down, but who cares? Like, everyone knows this is completely linked to Bitcoin, so it's about your take on Bitcoin. My take is, when I look at it, when I see the foundational moves on Bitcoin, I'm very bullish. I think we are going up. Are we limited by the best resource we have for tracking robotaxis is the community-based reporting site, and Tesla only releases details per quarter? This affects everyone, but we have half the picture. Yes, John Samuel, we have to be aware that the robotaxi tracker is not reliable. It's not necessarily true, but we know some things that the wins on the Robotaxi tracker are true. They're unique. So the Robotaxi tracker is kind of the minimum that is happening. It might be happening much more. It's guaranteed that there's more happening that the Robotaxi tracker doesn't see, but it's the minimum. On the other side, they count a lot of robotaxis that might not be in operation right now. So how are you planning on playing SpaceX IPO? Of course, I always use it for alpha. But the SpaceX IPO, I'm very unnervous about it. I think we have to observe Tesla independently. We have to see what Tesla is doing, predict it, do our job. And let's just keep observing SpaceX. We need to know the date. We need to know more details. I want to see the roadshow materials. We can form our own opinion. As you all know, I'm not bullish on SpaceX IPO. I'm extremely bullish on SpaceX, but not on the IPO. I think it's too hyped. I think the odds that this drops is high. And that's it. And if they merge, Tesla is going to get a premium, in my opinion. So that can only be bullish for Tesla. So I'm not too concerned about that. IVE's ticker symbol, well, you know, I think Pioneer Alpha outperforms all of these people. Of course, Dan Ives is great. Cathie Woods is great and ARK is great. But when I look at the performance, I don't know what the latest is. I mean, ARQ was extremely strong. ARK is right now not tracked well. ARQ was very, very strong. But let's see about that. Yeah, I can show you. This is Cathie, not Dan Ives, but I don't think Dan Ives is going to outperform ARK. I don't know why RK is not showing. RQ is the stronger one. Look at Pioneer Alpha is outperforming RQ 7% alpha over 6 months. Year to date, we are like head to head. They're slightly outperforming us. We are 12.11. They are 12.32. Month to date. Oh, there's a. Well, year, of course, that was good, but because we dropped too much a year ago. So, is that correct, the data? Yeah. I mean, this week we totally crashed them. We destroyed them. So who knows? Who knows? But Dan, maybe I should track Dan Ives too here. Could put them into the tracker and see what's happening. I mean, this week we just crushed everyone. We were just too right about Tesla. This week was amazing, but year to date, NASDAQ. Now we are also beating NASDAQ because of last week strongly for year to date 2026. What do we have? S&P also beat, easy beat. Wow, strong beat. NASDAQ performed strong. So yeah, Dan Ives, I mean, basically all these people are stock pickers. The advantage of Pioneer Alpha over all of these guys is when you're publicly traded, not as a bond, but as a fund or ETF, you're not allowed to do leverage. You're not allowed to do discretionary leverage, and you're not allowed to do discretionary options. So if you do something like TSLL, which by the way is a total disaster. TSLL, look at this. Ouch. Ouch. If you put $1 million into TSLL this year, you're down 310,000 versus 120,000 up with Pioneer Alpha. So we outperform on $1,430,000 TSLL. That's the price you pay with TSLL. But the problem is, because I went through this whole thing, should I do a fund? And we decided against it. And we do our performance-linked bond, which allows much better engineering, in my opinion, much better engineering to the benefit of, you know, different investor interests, different bonds that do certain things for investors, safety versus upside versus income. But Dan Ives and Cathie Woods, they're not allowed to use options. So, and they're, I think, not allowed to use any leverage. So that takes my most important weapons besides predicting the future out of my hands. That's why I don't want it, and that's why, you know, we outperformed them so far. Happy Sunday, Tony Bullrun. That's a great name. What do we have here? Steve Steve Edlund. AI will threaten humanity, and the company who created the problem will offer to tackle the problem for a ransom. That is true. That is unfortunately very true. Happy Sunday too. Joe, the merger between Tesla and SpaceX is killing me. If SpaceX will buy Tesla, merger between identical value companies, this means 1.75 trillion is 470 bucks. This means my leaps at 550 are worthless. Not necessarily, because you're most likely, and you guys should also open Claude, open Grok, open ChatGPT 5.5, and just do a little bit of work, because I have to do it, but I'm behind. But you guys can do me a favor, do the whole community, do all of Pioneer Lands a favor. Just do research, type in, here's my situation, there's a merger, please Grok, please Claude, please whoever, find out the following. Find the exact options contract language, the link to the actual contract and the contract language, and determine what actually happens contractually to my leaps if SpaceX buys Tesla below my strike price. Ask the AI and it will give you a good research report, and then you dig deeper into the research report and really get the links to the contracts that would solve our problem, and then force it to actually quote the paragraph. Just say, where's the link? Where's the actual contract governing the exact options? Because there's a central public contract covering this, NASDAQ or something. And then ask it to quote the exact contract language, because we need to figure that out. I'm 95% sure that you don't lose it. Pony stock ticker. I don't know what that pony. What's pony? So I think that is important. Now, why is this not scrolling? What's happening here? See more. Why is this not scrolling? Let's see. Okay, oh, here it's scrolling. Okie dokie. Then we go into some more comments before we wrap it up. Some more comments. Oops. Here we do some more comments on robotaxis in Pioneer Lands in the forum. Look at this. Here was a very interesting forecast by Goldman Sachs, I think. That was posted by Christopher. Goldman Sachs inside articles here. This is on the Pioneer Lands forum for autonomous transport, where we have the smartest minds on these things. The global robotaxi market is projected to reach approximately 415 billion in 2035, which is of course underestimating it, but at least they adjusted. That's Goldman's prediction right now. Of course, they did not predict accurately what's happening with Cybercap, so I think they're underestimating it, but it tells you that even these people are slowly getting the message, which is very interesting. So Goldman, global commercial AV robotaxi fleets forecast to grow from roughly 7,000 vehicles today, including Waymo and all the other guys, to 6 million by 2035. So it's an aggressive forecast. I think they got their revenue numbers wrong. Autonomous trucking is expected to become cheaper per mile than human-driven trucks in 2028, that's actually, is that in line with my prediction? I think 2027, but I think 2028 could also be true. Globally, AV trucking market potentially reaching 560 billion in 2035. So I wanted to show you this because that is important. I have a video coming, I think, in a few hours on the Tesla Semi. And even Goldman, you have to read between the lines here. Goldman says, everyone is staring at robotaxi, okay? But Goldman says that autonomous trucking will be larger than the entire robotaxi market in 10 years. Well, that's in 8 years, kind of. or 9 years. So that is interesting because that's exactly what I also said, only that my numbers are much larger than theirs because I think they're underestimating what is going on here and how fast that will be. We won't be at 6 million vehicles in 2035 if this really works. This will be, I mean, Tesla alone will be more than that, and China will be twice that. So they're off by a factor of a lot. But still, even though they're off with the actual number, they're saying robo-trucking will be bigger than robo-taxi, and they're right about that. So let that sink in. People don't even have this on their radar. That's why the semi is so important. Okay, I saw non-citizen questions got dropped. Did they? That was not intended. Maybe that's a bug. I will give it to the team. Say we need non-citizen questions. They should be allowed. I don't know what the problem is. Robotaxi trackers 31 unsupervised. That would be. I'm not even sufficiently short put right now for Monday, but let's see. Well, I'm at 390 strike. I'm a little cautious. If that would be true, that would be pretty hot. Let's check this out. Thanks for giving us a head up, David Alexovsky. Wow. Here, you see it in real time. You see it here on Pioneer. Let's look at this. David, thank you. That is absolutely crazy. So unsupervised has now gone up. It is not even shown here. Yeah, this is not reflected in this here. Oh, it's here in Dallas. Here, 6 in Houston and 5 in Dallas and 21 in Austin. So, guys, I'm telling you, you have to watch out on this thing because I told everyone, Cybercab is now in full swing production. They're producing 100, 200, 300, probably 300 a month in May, and then probably 600 in June or more. And that for normal automotive production is slow, but just let that sink in. I mean, I just going to deploy 1,000 Cybercabs unsupervised in the next 3 months, or more than 1,000. That's exactly what they have to do, based on the forcing function of the Cybercab manufacturing that I always pointed out. So if that really becomes true, prepare for some repricing. And whoever asked the question about that. Late greetings from Sweden, Tobias Johansson. I'm in Sweden too right now. That is good. Okay, I will reinstall the non-citizen questions. Winning. Waymo need more LiDAR. Waymo better install like 100 more LiDAR things per Waymo to catch up here. So this is pretty hot. So we are actually ending this on a high note. See, this is the amazing thing about the age of AGI. I want to have, by the way, more discussions about society and what's happening, because we need to keep an eye on the bigger picture, what's happening. But of course, these little, we are time witnesses of the most dramatic transformation of humanity that has ever happened. Most people are not even aware of it. That's why we have to cover this here. And we see these amazing things happening while we speak. Simon Aspuras, greeting from Lithuania, a beautiful place. I lived in Estonia a little bit. So Lithuania, beautiful. Marienburg is there. So, isn't that interesting what we are experiencing here? If this continues, if this graph continues the way it looks like, if we see that Cybercab production is ramping the way I'm absolutely predicting it right now, because we see it thanks to Joe Techmeyer, that they're churning out 300 Cybercabs right now per month, and that will then double every month because, that's how it normally goes. And that's very slow, by the way. And they will be deployed. We will see the repricing happening in the middle of the year. That's why I told whoever asked the question about the 700 strike price December 2027 calls, I would not sell them right now. I think you will have better opportunities. That is how it's happening. So let's keep watching this. We will definitely check pioneerlands.org and make sure everyone can ask questions. I don't know what happened there. I will tell the team right now, so check in soon. I should be able to ask questions. In the meantime, you can go to the forum. By the way, if you have the forum, you can comment there too. But of course, questions are your shortcut because questions go straight into the seminar. So on the forum, there's great discussions here. But the questions should be open to everyone. Let's see. Autonomy. Yeah, but I was wondering, we have so little questions. Maybe something's off. I will check it out, and you guys can see what's happening. So until then, I really enjoyed this as always, and see you guys very soon. See you next Sunday, and we will have a great robo trucking video coming out in a few hours. So stay tuned for that. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for being members of Pioneer Lands, where we are designing the future and predicting it. And I hope to see you very soon.